And there it is. And we're live right here, the Kevin Allen Show, the final episode. Mark, the producer, in the middle. Myself right here. And the guy, the last show that the Kevin Allen Show is going to do. And we're so privileged and honored to have our friend Clay Clark on with us today. And you're in Arizona, I think. Or no, you're out in Tulsa.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yes, sir.
Bang, 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 bang. So listen, welcome back to the show. And as we were just talking before we went live, no better person to be one of our last shows than you. You're an energy in this country. What's going on? Let me get right into it. I'm going to interview you because you know what? Sometimes you come on and you just start banging it off at me, and you're way smarter and faster talker than me, but I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Absolutely. You interrogate me all you want.
What's going on with the Reawaken Tour? What are we doing with that? Because I love that event. I want to go back to that event. What's going on?
Well, our final event that we're doing will be June. That'll be June 7th and 8th in Detroit, Michigan. And there's kind of a couple bolt-on things for any patriotic podcasters that want to get sort of a tune-up or a coaching up or a mentoring up from Laura Logan, from General Flynn, from Mike Lindell, from myself, Mel K, and others. It's an absolutely free event for patriotic podcasters, and that's March 8th and 9th in Tulsa at my office. This will be the third installment and final installment we've done of this, and the purpose of that is so many great podcasters and patriots, they really don't know the mechanics of how to produce a show or how to grow the audience. That's an event we're doing free. General Flynn and I are doing that. It's a 2-day workshop, March 8th and 9th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Then the tour itself, the final event we're doing for that is June 7th and 8th. That'll be in Detroit, Michigan. And 70 speakers confirmed. Darryl Strawberry, Major League Baseball great, who turned his life around. He'll be there. Colonel Douglas McGregor, General Flynn, Kash Patel, Eric Trump, Laura Trump. 70 speakers. And again, for that event, you can name your price. So for the podcaster event, no cost. And if you say, I want to go to it, how do I do it? You can just text me directly. That's my cell phone number, folks, at 918-851-0102, 918-851-0102. That's the number you can text. And again, there's zero cost. All you have to do is be a serious person as relates to saving our country. And again, that's my cell phone number, 918-851-0102. I'll write it on the back of an old school VHS and hold it up here. That's my number.
And it's reverse, guys. It's a little backwards. But Mark, can you put that up for us too? Mark, the producer, will take care of that very much. Yeah. Clay, listen, the Reawaken Tour brings energy. And by the way, when you Google search, right? Let's do the Google search. What's up with Rolling Stone and their infatuation with you? I want to understand this infatuation with you, Clay Clark. Rolling Stone magazine and you.
Well, I don't know. I do know that I was asked. I'm trying to we're trying to reawaken America. I'm not trying to make America, by the way, a better place to go to hell from. I'm trying to lead people to Christ. That's what we're doing. We're sharing the truth about medical fraud and election fraud and religious fraud. But ultimately, it's about getting people back to God. And so the Rolling Stone, they called and said, "Hey, could you or would you allow us to shadow you, or to look behind the scenes, or to come to your event?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, fine." So a member of the Rolling Stone actually rode with me in my white van and went with me. They met my wife, met my kids, went to the event, saw us staying at the Holiday Inn Select, followed me. I think I bought them lunch, and then they refused to eat it because of their journalistic integrity rules, And out came a hit piece after they studied all of this. And it was basically that the premise was that I've bitten off more than I can chew, quote unquote, and I'm losing money, which is true. I am losing money. But I'm not losing money because I'm an idiot. I'm losing money because I'm trying to save our country and lead people to Christ. And therefore, I want everyone to be able to afford to go, which they thought was a bizarre idea.
It is bizarre. So listen, no secrets here. The Rolling Stone magazine is what it is, and like many of the media companies out there. What your media background, and I've never really gotten into this because we have so many of the hot topics that we want to get to. Yeah. But you have a media background. You've been in entertainment and a lot of different spaces. We actually just talked off the air about your, how many successful businesses. You've been named entrepreneur of the millennium or whatever it is. And you're just, you're a golden child of some sort. How did you get this much energy at a young guy? Because you started out like in your teens, right?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up really poor, and everybody has a different threshold for what that means. But for me, we had yellow boxes everywhere. We had to limit what activities we could do based upon the family budget. My dad had 2 jobs. May he rest in peace. I mean, he did everything he could do to put food on our table. He was he was delivering pizzas for Domino's and working at a gas station in his late 30s, despite having a college degree. And so I just remember thinking, I remember thinking when I was 12, Kevin, I thought when I was 13, I remember just thinking it was like a obsessive thought of why are we poor and what can I do to become unpoor? How's that going to happen? And I held that thought, and I read Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, How to Win Friends and Influence People, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Service Profit Chain, Value Profit Chain. I mean, I can go on. I wouldn't say thousands of books, but maybe 1,000 books, hundreds of books I read. And then I would call very wealthy people and say, can I shadow you? Which, by the way, that's a pro tip for anybody out there that wants to know how to become successful. It's a great way to do it. So you shadow, you observe, you don't interrupt, you don't obstruct, you just watch a person being successful. And I discovered quickly that successful people, there's many things they do well, but there's 5 things I discovered that were very common. They all wake up before most people, so they're all starting their day at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. That's big. 2, they all have a to-do list. So today it's my to-do list. They all have a to-do list, and they all are very intentional about what they're doing. So they're not drifting around throughout the day. They know they're going to call their wife at this time, pick up their kids at that time, do this business deal at that time. Next is they all have a calendar. The calendar is such a big thing. They say no to things. They say yes to things. They're very intentional about where they spend their time. 4th is that they do surround themselves with people that they respect, and they're intentional. The Bible tells us in Proverbs, I don't want to paraphrase the Bible, but the Bible tells us in Proverbs, it says, for a companion of fools shall suffer harm. And I think a lot of Christians oftentimes want to help other people so much that they end up becoming a depraved individual themselves. So Proverbs 13:20, I mean this. I see so many men who are my age that want to, help a man who's struggling with alcohol or help their buddies turn their life around. So they start going to the bar with them. Next thing you know, they're going out bowling with them. Next thing you know, they're all drinking buddies. Next thing you know, they get a DUI together. And it's just so the Bible says, he that walketh with wise men shall become a companion of fools. It says, he that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. So again, number 4, they all are intentional about who they hang out with. They're very intentional. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And finally, they're all voracious readers or studiers. They're just very voracious. And so I started this is all pre-Christ, but I started a DJ entertainment company, one of America's largest entertainment companies for weddings, called DJConnection.com. I no longer own it. Then I built a party rental company called Party Perfect. I built the region's largest photography company for weddings. Then I built a real estate commercial real estate business. Then I helped to build a dental practice, and then a law firm, and then a home flipping business. And then blah, blah, blah. Now today, if you go to thrivetimeshow.com, it's all, you can go there and see what I do. But basically today, what I do, my game, Kevin, is people say, could you help me grow my business? And I say, yes. And they say, well, how much do you charge? And I say, I want 2.5% of the growth, and then a small monthly fee, which averages about $1,700 a month. And then we just put the business on nitrous oxide. So that's what I do.
So I love what you just said. And so I have a couple questions. And actually, can I shadow you? And how can I give you 3% of my business if we can talk about that after the show? Because I'd love to partner with you.
Well, okay. One is the Flyover Conservatives are I don't partner with a lot of people, but I have 160 brands I work with, one of which is called the Flyover Conservatives, and they are a partner podcast. And if you go to thrivetimeshow.com and you click on the testimonials button, I don't want to exaggerate the number, but I believe they've grown their revenue by 1,000% plus, but it's a number larger than that.
Wow.
And then 2, if you want to shadow, absolutely, you can text me on my number, which is written backwards here on the back of this VHS tape, 918-851-0102, no cost. And then 3rd, for anybody who wants to shadow, I mean this sincerely, I want you, if you're out there today, to become successful. But the problem we have here is, I have I grew a dog training franchise. Okay. I grew one. I grew it. And I was recently bought out of my percentage ownership there. And it was called Tip Top Canine Franchising. I didn't start the company. I started the franchising. I co-founded the franchising company. And, I sold out my percentage. And so I was able to, move on to the next thing. And now I have another dog training business I'm growing right now. And this is the problem. Entrepreneurship involves 4 steps, and most people want to skip one of these steps. Not your listeners, but some people. Mm-hmm. 1, you have to find a problem that people have. This just in. People don't have well-behaved dogs. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. 2, people need to solve the problem. Mm-hmm. You have to find a problem that people want to solve. So we've got skilled dog trainers. They're good at it. They're going to make your dog well-behaved, et cetera. 3rd, you got to sell that thing. Like you got to sell it, So that's why when you go to makeyourdogepic.com, make your dog epic, the first lesson is always 50 cents, because it's very hard for me to convince on this podcast or in person anybody to pay me, more than $1,000 to train their dog. It's very easy though to convince people to pay us 50 cents. And when people see the first lesson, they go, wow, this is amazing. You guys are like dog gurus. And then the final step is you have to nail it and scale it. That's where you build the checklists and the systems and the hiring and the firing. And, and just today, Kevin, this is a real story. We had a young man in my office. We have a great team, by the way, but we had a young man in my office today that tried to do the whole projectile diarrhea excuse. I'm not kidding. So it's like, hey, boss, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I had projectile diarrhea. Well, first off, the phrase projectile is when you combine that with diarrhea, it makes it almost an unquestionable thing. Did you really have projectile?
It's very diarrhea. That's a lot. That's a lot to think about, right?
But the employee will say that, and when you have hundreds of employees, sure, people will play that game, and now it becomes about management and leadership and org charts and holding people accountable. We have a great team, but that whole projectile diarrhea story lasted about 2 seconds in my mind before I said, that is, that's BS. I know that's BS. That's BS. Just get back to work. Like the guy says, you're right. It was BS. But it's just, that's a management thing. That's a leadership thing. And we can teach people more of that. But with those 4 steps, find a problem, solve a problem, sell the solution, nail it and scale it.
I love it right there. I'm giving you a big high five on that one. It's interesting because when you're talking business, I myself, I'm writing a book right now, Clay, and doing this story about my life. All the successes, well, they're coming now. All the failures are the ones I'm talking about in my story. But, when you talk about this whole next generation of employees, I can't even understand how we deal with that. I would like to talk more, but more importantly, what about a relationship? You got to pick the right spouse if you're this kind of entrepreneur. Am I right?
Yeah, and I would say this, my wife is a wonderful, wonderful person, and I probably could not be married to anybody else that I've met, and maybe there's nobody else who would want to marry me, so maybe we're perfect for each other. But we have lanes, and the Bible, if you open your Bible, this is going to bother people, but if you read your Bible, 1 Timothy talks a lot about roles of men and women. Ephesians talks about this, but anything with 2 heads is a monster. And so in my marriage, in my life, and how we do our marriage, I am very clear in what my role is. I'm not trying to impress anybody else. My wife knows that I'm going to provide for her. I'm going to show up to work every day. I'm going to get to work previous to 5 a.m. I'm going to get all my work done. So just as an example, just moments before, Kevin, before he hopped on the show, my wife called me and she said to me, hey, for the business, one of the businesses, have you thought about moving the payroll to, we have a business where some of the employees make some pretty decent sized checks, and she wanted to know about moving their payroll to monthly because the good people at the, paychecks processing, bookkeeping company, whatever, they thought it'd be a good idea to move their payments to their checks monthly because it would be, just 12 a year. Mm-hmm. And this seems like a great idea by somebody who's working in bookkeeping and accounting. And I said, 100% no. Mm-hmm. No. And I'm not attacking my wife. I'm not attacking the bookkeeper. But, it's the annual. It's the first of the year. Right. And you know how these bookkeepers are, these accountants. They always have these epiphanies. And one particular company we work with said, well, you could reduce your expenses by moving it to once a month.
Yeah, sure.
No.
Sure.
Why? Because the people who work in that business, it would irritate them. It would irritate me. In my opinion, it's too long to go because it's a merit-based paid job, and I want them to feel the impact of the work they do. Mm-hmm. And so I said no. My wife goes, okay. I told him I would ask. But we're not sitting there debating about it all day. Now, meanwhile, in her lane, she's taken my kids to Palm Springs for a cheer competition. I don't like cheer at all. This just in. I don't like it. I don't think it's a sport. I think it should be disbanded. I'm not into it. I don't think you can't go pro.
You want to disband it. You just don't want to just get rid of it all, you think?
I think you should get rid of it. You burn it down.
Burn it down. Okay.
I don't think it leads to anything positive. I don't think the skills are transferable. I don't like it. But you know what? My wife and I agreed when we first got married that she could decide the activities the kids are in. But the only thing I'm going to insist on is they have to read, write, confidently speak. They've got to learn an instrument, and they have to learn entrepreneurship. So I'm like, as long as I can teach those 5 things, whatever you want to do. So my wife tells me last night, hey, I'm going to Palm Springs on whatever week. And I'm going, Palm Springs? And my immediate reaction, Kevin, is, why would anybody go to Palm Springs for cheerleading? But that's what they're going to do. And then the next weekend, they're going somewhere in Texas. And the next weekend, and think about this. Families now travel on often. It's expensive. It's time consuming. It doesn't make any sense to me. And so, again, somebody out there listening might disagree. I don't go. What? You don't go? No, we agreed as a couple. I'm not going to that mess. You can go to that thing. I'm not going to deal with the hairspray convention. I'll be at the office doing my thing, working 6 days a week, resting on the 7th. And we've agreed on that. We've been married 23 years. And so we don't debate it every day. We haven't had a 23-year argument. It's just I have my lane. She has hers.
Is your wife a business? Is she in the business day to day?
She hovers over the accounting department. So she shows up.
So she knows where the money is. She knows where the money is.
Well, she shows up in a non-scheduled manner. So let me just be clear. She has a to-do list like all the employees, and I give her a list, and she basically does daily audits on the different businesses to make sure the numbers aren't drifting. And she does a phenomenal job with that, but there's no she doesn't have to be here at 9 and leave at 5. There's not meetings that she's scheduled for, but she has rolling tasks that she looks at, which is basically a rolling audit of all the businesses to make sure that nothing's drifting financially. And she does a phenomenal job. But I would just say my marital advice, not that anybody wants it, is figure out your lane. Take that time to figure out your lanes as opposed to spending your day complaining. So instead of the complain, figure out your lane. Because I could have 1,000 in-depth conversations with my wife about the cheerleading and how I believe it is an abomination against all things good. And she could talk to me at great depth about why she thinks that my obsession with meat is either not healthy or not that awesome. But I love meat. I love seafood.
Yeah.
She loves cheerleading. So guess who I don't take with me when I get seafood? Her. Why? Because she doesn't like it. And we spend a lot of time together, but we don't sit there and debate that all the time. I see so many couples fighting over and over and over about unsolvable preferences. You just have to figure out your lanes.
It sounds like really good advice to me. And good advice right now is to go to one of these sponsors that pays our bills over here. Yeah. And we want to talk about CashMap Consulting LLC. Reach out to CashMap today. Just go right over there to CashMap LLC, Consulting LLC, and check out what they have to offer. This is a app-based program that can actually help you save money in your finances. So check it out today. And remember, CashMap Consulting LLC is going to be promoting and sponsoring the tour across the nation, our speaking tour coming up really soon being announced. And so, Clay, I want to ask you quickly, this country is, as we talk about often, you and I and talking about this Christian and I'm I'm not holding back. I'm a Christian. I've been saved and I'm proud to say it, and I want to share it. What is the problem, you think, in society today when almost it's some of us, and not me, but I'm saying I know people that say, I don't really tell people I'm a Christian because they're worried about the backlash. Why do you think that is in America?
Most people haven't read Matthew 5:10-11. Now, there's other parts of the Bible too, but Matthew 5:10-11 states, God blesses ye who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for ye shall inherit the kingdom of heaven. Most people don't view the Bible as that way. I mean, Luke, Matthew, and Mark are very clear that God will deny you if you deny him. That if you don't drop the things of this earth to pick up the cross for him, he will deny you. Now, let me judge myself for a second. I'm doing this podcast with you. Hopefully somebody out there would like to listen to today's show. Maybe there's someone who says,
Two.
I wish this show would be over. But the thing is that this show, doing this show with you, is very much out of my comfort zone of what I wanted to do. And I did not want to do and do not want to do any type of media related things. But 4 years ago, I asked God, what can I do to help save our country? And I noticed that everybody around me would talk in private, like, you know what, man, someone needs to say something about this. Someone should say something about the lockdown. Someone should say something about the mask. Someone should say, and I just was like, well, you know what? I can't make you do whatever, but I told my wife, I will sue the mayor of Tulsa if there's a lockdown, and I will turn my building into a church. That I will do. I will fly in a pastor every Thursday to lead church during the lockdowns. I will do that. That I will do. And I did it. And so through that process, then it started leading into praise and worship rallies, because I did this every week, and I still do it every week. Well, then we had like 700 people, Kevin, show up at a praise and worship event. Then all of a sudden, the national media is covering it, and it became a thing. And then General Flynn and I met each other. Well, now, I consider pretty much Trump's inner circle all friends of mine. And I don't say that to name drop. I say it because it's a nonstop, ongoing commitment that I have, and it has nothing to do with financial enrichment. And it has nothing to do with profitability. In fact, the Reawaken Tour is, your listeners are smart. If you go to timetofreeamerica.com and you name your price, you'll know how much you paid. Why? Because you named your price. So we talked to a guy today, Kevin. I just spoke to him today. And he says to me, by the way, if you text the number at timetofreeamerica.com, I will probably call you, or a member of my team will call you. I mean, you got to go 1 in 5 chance you'll talk to me. And this guy says, hey, I want to come, but we're in a bad spot. I could afford like $25. And I said, all right, so $25 a ticket. He goes, yeah, sure. He goes, I got to ask you though, how do you make any money? And I said, I don't. He goes, I heard that. It's wild to me.
Yeah.
And so all I can say is, everybody out there, God wants to use your time, your treasure, and your talent in some way. And if you will give those things to God, He will use those for His glory. And that is easier said than done. But man, when I started doing interviews again, that was a weird place for me, because Kevin, I had committed to just doing my own podcast and not doing interviews. For years I had done that. Just for years, it would be a rare thing I would ever hop on someone else's show, and I would never talk about religion or politics. But it's something that God wants us all to do, is to get out there and share the truth.
Well, I think it's so important right now. And this, as we can talk about the election, the 2024 election. Obviously, this election is going to be one of the biggest elections in the history of this, in my opinion, this country. It's really going to test some waters. But how religion plays into this election is a question I want to ask you, Clay. How do you think religion is going to play into the 2024 election?
Well, I think that what's going to happen is a lot of Christians are going to look around and see the persecution that you're facing. So, as an example, you're a Christian mom and dad. You send your kids to Boy Scouts. Sir, please don't talk about your religion. Please don't talk about the religion, sir. You're a pilot. You're an airplane pilot. You want to pray before the flight takes off. Sir, please don't bring your religion into the cockpit. I mean, if you're in the military, you want to pray. Football coach, you want to pray before the game. Sir, could you please not pray before the game? Meanwhile, they're kneeling and standing for the most repulsive of causes. So I think a lot of Christians are seeing the persecution happen, have seen it happen. And so I think people are looking around going, who actually stands for the life of the unborn? Who stands for the life of the unborn? Who actually stands for faith, for freedom, for our First Amendment right to peaceably gather? And I would say that President Donald J. Trump has done more for Christians, or more for our rights as Christians, than virtually any other president in the United States history. I mean, he's one of the most pro-Constitution, pro-Bible, pro-Jesus pastors. I mean, he wouldn't let them call it the Christmas bush anymore. They call it the Christmas tree, or they called it the Christmas tree under his leadership. He put 3 pro-life Supreme Court justices in office that overturned Roe v. Wade. He stood up against the riots by standing in front of the church and holding up the Bible. I can go on and on listing off his accomplishments there. So I hope that most Christians will get involved. And the sad thing I would say, previous to right now, Kevin, is most Christians are apolitical. They typically do not show up to vote. Or a large percentage of Christians, according to George Barna research, do not vote.
Right. And that is mind-boggling, because they're some of the issues that are going to affect them personally, intimately with their own beliefs. And so, Clay, you talked, the whole religious play into the election. What is your take on why social these social debates, social equity, these things that became so awakened and awoke, right? They were woke during the 2018, 2016, really, right into the 2020. Are we going to see that again, in your opinion, or do you think this is going to just be a different kind of debate?
Yeah, I don't know that. I certainly am not prophetic, but I can tell you I believe that Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, they're very clear about their goal. I mean, Yuval Noah Harari has said they want to put surveillance under the skin. What? Surveillance under the skin. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They've all teamed up together now with Iran. What? With Iran, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Egypt, Ethiopia. They're all teaming up together to de-dollarize. So you've got an attack on our wealth, an attack on our health, an attack on our sovereignty. All these things are happening. And I just hope that every single Christian out there listening today gets involved. And I will tell you, if you're out there and you want to join us for our final Reawaken tour in Detroit, June 7th and 8th, we are going to go bowling. What? On Thursday night, we're all.
Are you a bowler? Are you a bowler, Clay? Is that your thing?
No. I'm not. General Flynn is a skilled bowler, very good bowler. He's left-handed, but he bowls right-handed. He likes to bowl, and I, whatever you call like the final game in football, a lot of times they call it the bowl. So for the Reawaken tour, I'm calling the final event. I call it the Showdown at Motown. Live from the Mega Bowl. We're calling it the Mega Bowl, the first and only Reawaken America Tour Mega Bowl. And so we're going to go bowling on Thursday night. It's a kind of the meet and greet event. And for anybody who wears your bowling shoes to the event, you get to go backstage and meet the speakers. That's a real promise. So again, if you're out there today and you want to have, because again, I mean, Kevin, a lot of things are going wrong, but one thing that is the great equalizer, something that everybody can do, something that's a lot of fun, is going bowling. And when you get a chance to go bowling with some of the leaders of the patriotic movement, I think you'll have a very memorable family experience.
I agree with you 100%. Maybe I'll tag along with Jimmy Levy, and I'll carry his bags around while he's bowling. Listen, Clay, I know we only have a short amount of time. What's our time left here? I know you got a short amount of time.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm kind of booked back to back today, so I've got about another 60 seconds if you'll have me.
Well, I figured so. So let's finish. Direct everyone to where they want to go, and will you come back on again?
Yeah, I'd be happy to come on your podcast again. I really appreciate your graciousness to allow me to be here with you. But if people want to learn more about the Reawaken America Tour, Detroit, Michigan, June 7th and 8th, you can get those tickets at time2freeamerica.com, time2freeamerica.com. If you want to learn about the Reawaken America Tour documentary, you want to watch the documentary for free, 100% for free, that would be as low as of a price as you could possibly pay, 100% free. That's time2freeamerica.com. You can watch the Reawaken America Tour documentary there. And then finally, if you want to know what is going on from a biblical perspective, just go to time2freeamerica.com/Alex, as in Alex Jones, time2freeamerica.com/Alex, and you'll see the notes that I used to present on the Alex Jones show during the live studio interview with General Flynn and I. And that's time2freeamerica.com/Alex. And I really do appreciate you.
You got it. Clay, thank you so much again. And we look forward to talking to you really soon down the road. Clay Clark, there he is.
Take care, Kevin.
See you now.
Bye.
There you go. Let's bring Mark, the producer, back in before we wrap this show up. Mark, wait, what did I wake you up? You're shaking your head at me. What's going on, brother?
No. I was answering a couple other things.
This is a good interview right here. We did it back on our game right here, huh?
There we go. It was really great to close it out with Clay. But for our loyal viewers and listeners, we're not going away. We're just recreating the show. We're coming up with a new title, which will be you just posted. Feel free to post that again, sir.
I'm just teasing with you.
Yeah, the new site's going to be called Stay Prayed Up. We're still going to be doing some hard-hitting stuff, but we're going to do it more with a positive, possible, Christian outlook, and try to stay away from the negativity which is surrounding us, and we're trying to bring some positivity back in.
I agree with you, Mark. And, great interview with Clay. And, I just got inspired. I'm letting that Holy Ghost work, right? And just asking those questions, getting to know Clay Clark. I mean, about him, but to hear all these other back, how many employees, how his life really works, and his situation was his own marriage he talked about. But really, the best part about Clay is he's always consistent with his Christian values. And I just think on this show, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore, folks. So, I'm all Christianed up. I love you no matter what, but I hope you can tolerate this move, right, Mark? Because we have some other platforms we're going to be bringing on as well, some other creators and things. We're going to try to bring together a really unique thing that is not ashamed or afraid of talking about Christian values.
You pretty much nailed it right there. That's going to be our new philosophy, and we'll be posting some new content hopefully soon. We got a few kinks we got to work out, and once we fix those, we'll be broadcasting more on a regular basis.
100%. And in the meantime, you can always get my crazy pop-ups here and there talking about my crazy. But my crazy, and Mark knows and has been a part of the sounding board during the last year, especially, all started on December 17th of 2022. And that birthday of mine, where I was turning 53, is a year from that time till when I came back. And I was just talking with my pastor this morning, Mark and Pastor Rob, and I came back December 17th, my birthday. It was a year after that event took place. I got to do Advent, read the Advent in the church, my home church in Connecticut, and that's just amazing. Just amazing.
There you go.
So praise Jesus. So Mark, we covered everything here, I think. Good episode with Clay Clark. Guys, go and check out Clay Clark. I am going to tell you, Mark, we got to figure it out. Let's get out to that last event. I don't know what we got to do. If somebody wants to sponsor that, we'll wear the your shirts or hats. We'll be like, what was the movie? Was it Rocky when he was cheesy? He was selling everything, like the tiger belts and Trans Ams. Remember, he was going around taking anything he could to sponsor.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We're gonna be like,
it was a Rocky movie.
I think it was too. And so we'll be like Rocky. We'll put whatever you got on. You fund us, we'll fund you. But you know what? I think Clay's interested in talking about that shadow, and also maybe a consulting opportunity for Clay, even in a way to help us get this thing launched. I think we got his heart. So let's just pray that happens. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. And make sure, as I always like to say, stay prayed up.